Welcome to Big Blue Breakdown. Your host, as always, Matthew Lau, joined by the one and only Buck Nasty the Third. How you doing today, Mike?
Man, it's a beautiful, cold day here in southern Indiana. I spent all night unfreezing my pipes to find out that my wife just turned off the hot water. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, my water bill is going to be about $100 higher because I leave my water on all sinks, faucets, tubs running. Not just a small drip either. I give a nice little steady stream because I don't want that. Growing up, I grew up in a very small rural town in Kentucky and in a modular home that did not have very good insulation. So if you did not give yourself the best stream possible, you not only woke up to froze pipes, you woke up to busted pipes.
Right.
And so it's not worth it. My place now is beautifully insulated. I mean, the heat's on 64 right now, and it feels amazing. But, yes, outside is cold. But by comparison, it feels amazing outside compared to our friends up to the north. I think they said Minnesota and Minnesota's looking at negative 60. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
I believe my uncle. He just sent me a little Snapchat picture. He is from that area. It's negative 28 degrees outside air temperature.
Well, they said I think they said like 2 days ago it was negative 60. Which, hey, how cold is it when if it warmed up 100 degrees, you're still almost freezing?
You are just above freezing mark.
and I think there was something out one of the days that within like a calendar year, the city's hottest day and coldest day, which of course was the negative 60, was a flip of 150 degrees. Like, that sounds like hyperbole. That sounds like something you would over exaggerate. That, man, it's 100 like. But that's factuals. To know that it was 150 degrees colder in 6 months seems like something you would see in one of these science fiction movies where they over-exaggerate, like, climate change and things.
It is kind of like how UK basketball is playing, like, right now. When we played Duke, we were at negative 60, and, like, now it's 106 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. But so let's start right there. Absolutely. Biggest win, I think it was you that shared it on our page. Kentucky Wildcats was the ones who originally posted it. Biggest road win in the Cal era. Huge win against look, it was Vandy. They're 9-10. They're not a playoff or tournament team, but it's still a huge win. SEC road game. Mike, give me your takeaways.
Well, I don't care if Vandy is not a postseason team, NIT team, even if they get knocked out in the first round of the SEC tournament. That doesn't matter to me at all. This is a road SEC conference game. Playing a Vandy team that played us really, really well just a week and a half ago, and people were questioning, like, hey, are we going to go down to Nashville and lose this game? Like, are we even going to show up? Like, is Vandy that good? And then Vandy took a very, very good Florida team into overtime. So, I mean, I am very impressed by this win. And I am usually the type of person that is very optimistic. Like I don't want to get overhyped, just so my dreams get crushed, because I am from Kansas and I am a Kansas City Chiefs fan. And that's what happens is we get so hyped in the season and then our dreams get crushed. So that is why I'm trying to be optimistic here, kind of keep my excitement down. But it is hard not to get excited after this win, Matt. It's very, very hard not to.
I'm going to correct you on one thing, and I want everybody to listen. No, this isn't just me trying to be always right. It's to further your point. You said that Vanderbilt took a Florida team to overtime. No, they took Tennessee to overtime. Number one team in the country.
Right.
Like, taking Florida to overtime is one thing. That's impressive. Florida's a decent team, probably going to make the tournament. But to take the number one team to overtime, that you're absolutely right, Mike. And so I said this on the post-game show, which for those who don't know, me and Mike's I'm going to be on live. Mike will be in there conversing. We're going to be going post-game takes after each game. I'm starting to fall for this team in the likes that you did in 2010, 2012, 2015. That you typically those teams were so good that you fell in love with them in October, November, and people forget. So it's so funny because people forget we fell in love with this team when they were in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
And then they got blasted by Duke.
We were excited.
Oh, we were thrilled.
Excited.
40-0 was back.
Yeah.
And then we got blasted by Duke, and then everybody was like, I hate this team. You know,
I believe people were saying that we were an NIT team.
Yeah, and I think look. Obviously, that's today's media. That's today's
overreactions.
Yes. Oh, you know, we're 40-0 when we beat some team in the Bahamas. We're going to miss the tournament when we lose to Duke. We're going to be a 8 seed when we do this. We're going to be a 12 seed when we lose to Seton Hall. And now we're back to. I think the consensus between a lot of the big media heads, Dick Vitale, Jay Billis, Jay Williams, that we're one of the top 4 to 7 teams that can win the title.
Yeah.
So, and if we go out here and lay a goose egg to Florida, I'm sure that's going to change. But the fact of the matter is, and I think this is how it goes, if you're a Kentucky fan and you believe in Cal, you believe in this team, you believe in what he can do with these players, no matter what happens to Florida, to Tennessee, you just have a confidence that March is going to be it. If you're a naysayer, if you don't like Calipari, if you're waiting on him to get fired, then I'm not going to change your mind because you're always going to be waiting for that shoe to drop. Even if we talk in 6 weeks and it's the day before the national championship game, if you're a naysayer, you're still going to be doubted. So, like you, Mike, I'm excited where we are. I'm a little bit more of a hype guy than you, typically because being a Kentucky fan opposed to a Kansas City Chief fan, for the most part, we don't break your heart too often.
Right.
I mean, when throughout my life, 96, 12, 98, I know that's only 3 times in 30 years, but typically, I mean, that's getting it done. So I'm excited. What was your favorite part of that game, Mike? Of the 40 minutes, what was your favorite part of it all?
Well, my favorite part is like I can actually sit back and enjoy the game and like not be on the edge of my seat. Yes, I do love those games when it's we have to make this last second shot to obviously that is exciting. But I'm most excited. The takeaway from the game is PJ Washington. This guy is stepping up ever since Calipari said hey, he should be scoring 30 plus points a night, getting 12, 15 boards a night. He has really stepped up, and his confidence has gone through the roof since Cal said he is the best player on the team, and he has definitely taken that on his shoulders. And his 26 points against Vanderbilt shows you that he is the focal point of this team now, and it is very exciting, very fun to watch.
So you're making me work a little because somehow you managed to take. I had a main point, which was PJ Washington, coming out and just showing you what we started to see against K-State, but he couldn't get it done on the line. And
right.
Then he kind of regressed a little at the earlier part of the season, but now he's back looking like a sophomore PJ Washington should. But I figured you was going to take that point. So my backup point was the relaxing. But you took that point too, and rightfully so. I love the fact, as silly as it was, I love the fact that when you're in a Kentucky game and on the winning side, and the announcers feel the need to talk about something ridiculous. They talked about Jimmy Dykes' music career. This reminds me of those 2012, 2015 teams where by halftime the announcers are talking about everything under the sun other than the game because you have this team so locked away. You're absolutely right, Mike. I do enjoy the games that go back and forth where your fingers crossed, last-second shot. I don't want those against a 9-10 Vandy team.
Right.
I want that to be Tennessee. I would have taken that against North Carolina. I would have taken that against Kansas. That's okay. I don't really like that against an underperforming South Carolina, Arkansas. So my main takeaway, and this is not me making fun of anyone. This is just showing you how the faith I feel we have in this team. Seeing Johnny David play in a blue uniform. You don't see that much. To your point that you made before the show, about biggest road wins, Kentucky typically wears blue only on the road. If we have home games, we're in white. If we have those neutral games, we're typically the higher seed, we're in white. Typically, our blue are for the road. Typically, on the road games, we don't get 30-point leads. Typically, without 30-point leads, you don't put Johnny David in. So it's nice seeing us get to a point where Johnny David gets to break in that blue jersey. I'm excited. I was like, he owns one. I didn't know he owned one. Well, because it's one of those things where, ironically, we didn't wear blue this year until the Louisville game.
Right.
So, like, I noticed this earlier in the season. I saw Reed Travis dribbling in like a promotion, and I was like, why does he look so weird? Are we getting new uniforms? And I'm like, no, those are blue. We just haven't seen them yet. And then I seen Johnny David, and I said, why does Johnny David look different? And I'm like, because I haven't seen him in the blue uniform. You know, for promotional pictures, for the posters, they're always in their home white. So it sounds silly, but I think that was my favorite part, to knowing that we were in a point where we could let Johnny David, if Brad wasn't redshirting, he would have saw some action. But just to see this happen on a road game reminds me of some of those really good teams that Cal's had. All right, well, we're going to move on till Saturday. Saturday, I think it's at 4 o'clock. On the road.
Sounds right.
4 o'clock Eastern time. If you're in Central Zone, it'd be 3 o'clock. At Florida, we go in. Mike, you've been saying since early on, even before the Duke loss, after the Duke loss, before the resurgence, you were concerned about this at Florida. Give me your thoughts. Give me your concern. Give me your outcome.
I am still very concerned about this Florida team because they are a 12-8 team that they've had a pretty rough schedule. Like I want to say, they lost to a very good Florida State team at the time. I believe they were ranked in the top 20, if I'm not mistaken. They played West Virginia. They played a Michigan State team. Yes, West Virginia is down. So but it's still West Virginia. It is still a Bob Huggins coach team. They are still a very, very solid team. And then they played Tennessee. Yeah, they played a Mississippi State and Texas, like A&M as well. All very, very solid, probably tournament-bound teams. So this has got me concerned is because fans in general are saying we want Vols. We want Vols. You guys realize we don't play those guys for another 10 days. So I don't want us overlooking these stretch of non-ranked opponent teams. And you know it's a very, very good possibility that we could drop these next two games because they aren't ranked opponent teams. And we're looking forward to Mississippi State. We're looking forward to Tennessee. We're looking forward to the Vols. So don't get caught up in the hype train. Focus on your next game. You are 0-0 going into a Florida team that's 0-0 too. We need to focus on them and we need to dominate them 100%, just like we did against Vanderbilt.
Hey, I'm right there, and I'll even say it a little louder for the people in the back. Yes, I'm excited about this team. I'm ready for March Madness, but you're absolutely right. We got at Florida. It's not 10 days away. It's 16 days away. So You got at Florida. You got a South Carolina team that's scrappy. You got at Mississippi State. They're going to want revenge. You got an LSU team that is undefeated in conference play. Then you get Tennessee at home. Then after, just say you win that, then you got to go do at Missouri. That's a tricky place to play. You host an Auburn team that feel like you stole one from them. Then you place a scrappy Arkansas team. Then you got to go to Tennessee, and then you got to go to an Ole Miss and Florida team that is one of those two could be ranked because, to your point of Florida's strength of schedule, they did beat a top. I don't think they're ranked anymore, but a top 30 Ole Miss team. Florida just beat those guys.
Yeah,
and I want people listening.
At the time, they were ranked 15th, if I'm not mistaken. That Ole Miss, Miss team.
I feel like with basketball, it's a little different than football rankings because that 15 to me was a soft 15 because they had already lost to who was the team? I'm drawing a blank. The team from the Big 12 in the challenge. They had lost that game, dropped. It'll come to me. I think it was Iowa State. It was Iowa State.
Yeah, it was Iowa State.
They had already dropped that game. So that any ranking they had, I had a feeling it was a soft one.
Right.
because often you play twice a week instead of one. So if you're number one team in the country, undefeated, you lose on Tuesday. When you play on Saturday, you're still technically ranked number one, even though when the next ranking comes out, you probably won't be.
You're right.
Back to this Florida team. There's certain things in sports that aren't going to be on a piece of paper. Your bottom 40% fans aren't going to know about. And it's hunger and drive. Two teams that concern me is Florida and South Carolina team. We'll talk South Carolina later. Frank Martin will always have those guys playing rough, rigid, on edge. But so is Florida. At Gainesville, that place is going to be popping. That is going to it's guaranteed it's going to be a sold-out crowd. They're going to be yelling, screaming, making a noise. Florida always thinks they can beat us because, any Florida fan in relative memory hasn't been bad. They've had some pretty good Florida teams.
Yep.
Since about 2005, Florida's record against us is pretty even. But one thing I like, we have players on this team that Tyler Hero didn't give us much versus Vandy. We didn't need it. But I think Tyler Hero is going to give us everything plus some at Florida. Tyler Hero seems to love that. Every announcer says it. Tyler Hero went to a high school in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and he was committed to go to Wisconsin. He decided not to go to Wisconsin. So every high school he went to after that hated his guts for two reasons. A, he played on the opposing team, and
Yep.
B, when he had a chance to share a common joy by going to the home state, Wisconsin, he turned that down. So he's been playing, and he probably got there at certain points. He was probably booed by his own home crowd because,
Right.
you're still wearing our high school jersey, but you're not going to wear a college jersey. Almost like, to compare it to anyone who's local in this area that me and you are, Mike, Romeo Langford. Could you imagine if going into his senior year, he said he was going to Kentucky or Duke or Louisville? The IU, it would have been so torn because so many of New Albany fans are IU fans. You're still at our high school, but you're kicking our university in the face.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of like if you would have said, yes, I will marry you, but there's this other side chick that, sorry, I'm going to go.
It's not even that,
go
because
with
Wisconsin didn't even get the marriage. Wisconsin was dedicated at the beginning to side chick
They were
status.
engaged, yeah.
So he enjoys this. The Auburn place, when Auburn had come back from that 17-point deficit, they were crazy. They were loud. They'd actually taken the lead. They already thought we were dirty by that bad call. He walks up to the free throw and just smirks and knocks down two huge free throws. The kid finds a way to score. And look, unpopular opinion, the kid plays like an NBA player. Does he look the role? No. When we got him, did you think he was going to stay 3 years? Yes. Do we all still hope he stays 3 years? Yes. But the way the NBA is developing to a very offensive league, the kid plays like an NBA player. Off the dribble, wide open shots, hits his free throws. Nothing seems to faze him. He's okay on defense. The NBA don't need you to be great on defense, especially if you can score. Look at Steph Curry. So I want to get everything I can out of Tyler Hero because I don't know what his future holds. But I have all the faith and confidence in the world that him going into Florida, him going into Gainesville, I don't know why I said that, him going into Gainesville will be huge. And I think I'm going to go on I'm making a bold statement. Tyler Hero, 30-point night. We win by 8.
Oh, that's a very, very bold because what I believe his career high is when 20 points, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken, he had that 20-point game.
But see, and I'm going to say this. I think this team has come comfortable. We talked about this, I think, last week. Keldon Johnson could have 2-point game, and if someone else hits their 30th point, he is hugging them like he just scored his 30th point.
Yeah, he's excited.
I think we're getting to the point where these guys are won and they just want to win.
Yeah.
So, when he went for 20, I think he went for 24 against Louisville. Guys were still trying to figure out that road. Guys still wanted to be the one to take down Louisville.
Right.
If he starts, if at halftime and I truly think the same would have happened to P.J. Washington at Vanderbilt if we would have needed him. We didn't need him out there up 30. But if we would have still needed P.J. Washington, if this game was a 10-point game, I guarantee you they would have continued to feed P.J. Washington until the man got full and got his 40-point night, if it was needed. It just wasn't needed. I think it's going to be needed versus Florida. So I could see when he scores 18 in the first half, I think they're going to come out that second half setting up plays. Guys are going to be driving to the rim with the intentions of kicking it out to a wide open Tyler Hero.
Yeah, and I see everything that you're saying about this game, and I'm going to one-up you a little bit here. I think Florida is going to say, PJ, Reed, Nick, EJ, you guys are not going to score a point on us. We are taking you guys away. We are going to make the guards beat us because as of so far during this 6-game win streak, 7-game streak that we have here.
Yeah, we're about 6.
6 games. Yeah, our post play has been very, very dominant. We have destroyed people in the post. So I think Florida is saying we're going to take that away. So I think Hero is going to have a great game. 30 points, no, but I'm saying 25, 26 points. And I also see Keldon Johnson having a great game too. He 20-plus points as well in this game.
That was going to be my thing. And I'm going to say that as you started explaining that to me, a picture started to come clearer to me. Yes, I could see Tyler going for 30. I could see TJ. I could see Keldon going for 20. And if you want to give me a cop out, if you want to give me a little caveat, I'll say that for every extra point that Keldon scores, it probably will take away from Tyler Hero. So to your point, I could see both those guys combining for 50 one way or the other.
Yeah.
If it means Tyler Hero gets 26 and Keldon Johnson gets 24, I think Tyler Hero is just going to relish playing in that. And if Keldon Johnson has 2 points at halftime, that doesn't mean anything anymore. He could still finish with 20.
I think I want to say that both of these guys are the key to this game because, if Hero he gets hot, Keldon will get he'll get just as hot, and they'll start going back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, and I think these guys, they relish the opportunity to have the fans going crazy, the building rocking, and then with one play, with one shot,
hushes the crowd.
Just unanimously, gone.
Right.
Even the exact opposite. Like if you come to Kentucky, Rupp Arena, I love Rupp Arena, and we've talked about the crowds. I still think they're one of the best crowds in the country. But even at Rupp Arena, or any stadium, it takes a little. It's like a cold engine. It just takes time to get started. The upper levels start going, then it'll start trickling its way through. But the exact opposite, it's harder to do. But when you got a crowd of 60, 50, 20, 30,000 going nuts, and in one play can take it 100-0 real quick, that's a magical thing. And for Tyler Hero to love it and embrace it, I'm excited about.
Ice in his veins, man. He loves it. Yeah.
We talked about some of the NBA comparisons, so we're going to get some of the cats in the NBA. The main one, obviously, being Anthony Davis. I'm not the one that reported this story, so I'm always careful how I word this. His agent has stated that Anthony Davis is not interested. Anthony Davis hasn't said a word. Has stated he's not interested in re-signing with New Orleans, wants a trade. So we're going to look at that aspect. But since this has come out, New Orleans seems to be playing hardball. They say the consensus seems to be that Anthony Davis wants to go to L.A., wants to go to the Lakers, wants to play with LeBron. The New Orleans says not only are we not taking calls, if we were taking calls, we wouldn't be taking them from L.A. What's your thoughts on everything is from Davis to where do you see his future, immediate and long-term?
Well, if you guys listen to RTF Sports Talk, and if you're not, you should. So go ahead and subscribe to that as well. Me and Billy have been going back and forth on this all week. And Mr. Hatton, Mr. Grand Jefe himself, he brought up a good point. The New Orleans Pelicans are kind of like being that crazy ex. They want you around, but they don't want anybody else to have you either. So you are like in that little stage of like, hey, I still got to talk to her and be nice because, she still she still has my house key type of thing. And that's exactly what is happening here. It is a very, very petty situation. Anthony Davis has been quiet. He has been doing things right. He has been going through his agent, letting his agent handle everything. And the reason for this is because I still think he wants to hold peace in the city that he's in. But clearly that's not happening. So at some point, we definitely need to hear from AD, see what he's thinking. But I know this isn't an NBA show by any means, but the Pelicans need to let Anthony Davis go. Stop hanging on to once what was. It's time to move on. Get those 3 or 4 guys from LA that they're offering you. Do it.
Here's my thought on it, because I'm not taking a side. You or Billy or both of y'all compared it to an ex. No, it's a current relationship. This relationship's still going, except the girlfriend wants to break up with you because you don't have a nicer house. You love her. You want her to stay. She has equal feelings towards you. She just wants a nicer house. Now, you can try to get a nicer house, but what kind of damages could that do to yourself in the long run? So that's essentially it. They want Anthony Davis. They want to keep him in a Pelicans uniform. He just wants to play on a team that's going to contend for a title. I guess New Orleans could technically try to go make that happen, but it's not that easy. If guys don't want to come to you and sign, they don't want to come to you and sign. You know what I'm saying? If banks don't want to give you a loan for a $500,000 house, you can't get a $500,000 house, no matter how bad your lady friend or wife or spouse wants it. It just ain't happening. With this, look, okay, I have no problem with anybody. Anthony Davis wants out of New Orleans. I have no problem with that. But when Anthony Davis signed that contract, we talked about this with Le'Veon Bell, and I don't care what you do. I don't have a problem one way or another, but just be aware of the consequences. The contract was you're going to be repping New Orleans until the end of 2020 or the end of the 2020 season. So you want out. You're at their mercy. You don't have when you sign that contract, from my understanding, you didn't put a no trade clause in there, so they can send you anywhere they want.
Yeah.
So they don't have to send you to LA. And to be honest with you, I was talking to Billy about this yesterday. I'm not too excited if I'm New Orleans about those pieces that LA's offering me. Because when you give me Kuzma, Ball, and Ingram to go with Julius Randle, the New Orleans Pelicans are just the Los Angeles Lakers of 2016. I don't want that team. If anything, I'm calling the Knicks because, and look, I know this is not what Anthony Davis wants, but I'm doing what's best for me. If I'm Anthony Davis, I'm keeping my mouth shut. Wherever I go, I'm going to play hard because in 2020, there's going to be a lot of money for me to go anywhere that makes me happy. Now, if they trade you anywhere, you do whatever you do.
But he's gone on record saying that money isn't a big deal. That's why he didn't sign his extension.
Well, then that's fine.
The Pelicans, yeah,
and that's fine. And he could use whatever leverage he wants. If he wants to show, if he wants to sit, I mean, he's going to have to make a decision on his own. But if I'm the Pelicans, I'm calling New York, the Knicks, and I say, send me that draft pick, send me Porzingis, he's yours. If I'm Boston, or if I'm them, I'm calling Boston, say, send me Kyrie, send me send me Al Horford, because you don't have to pay him $30 million next year, and send me that Kings pick that's looking like it's going to be a darn good one. Send me that. Anthony Davis is yours. And because the Knicks are stubborn enough to think that they can convince him to stay, the Celtics think, hey, if he plays, we can get a title, and then if we lose him, so be it. If you're Anthony Davis, I don't know. You have to decide what's best for you. Do you risk taking the image hit and you just say, if you send me anywhere but LA, I'm sitting out? Do you risk taking the injury hit, and if you get sent to Brooklyn, that you go 110% for a team that's going to be horrible? Well, Brooklyn's actually going to make the playoffs, but anyway, they don't stand a chance to win the title. Yeah. So, I mean, Anthony Davis, I don't know. And I'm not one of those people that say, hey, you signed a contract, you got to live up to it. I'm just one of those people who do what you want, but because of other decisions you've made, there's consequences going to be tied to it one way or the other.
I mean, I am on AD's side on this 100%. If he does not end up in a purple and gold jersey in the next week or so, I believe the NBA the trade deadline ends February 7th.
Yeah.
If he does not end up in a purple and gold, he will either not play for the rest of this year or he will only give 70-80%.
But see, that's the problem that he's in, and that's why I'm so curious. Look, I don't know the right answer, and like you said, this isn't an NBA show, but I'm so curious to see how this plays out because let's just say he takes the option you said. He's not in purple and gold by February. He sits this season out. We've already seen New Orleans is going to be petty. What if they become even pettier and say, "We're still not trading you"? He's still got a whole nother year. So Anthony Davis would have to sit out for 18 months. Look, basketball can stand that. It's not like Le'Veon Bell where they're going to ask you 1,000 questions after you sit out for 6 months. Basketball can take an Anthony Davis who hasn't played in a year and a half. But there's going to be questions. And when you're a big guy and you don't put that wear and tear on your body, I'm not saying you got to put damage on it, but you don't keep that thing going. It's kind of like a big truck. You don't want to fire up a diesel cold in the morning and give it all you got. You're going to put some damage on it.
He'll still be playing some ball. He'll play some summer league games versus those all-stars that they play. They allow
like the little camp
play. Yeah,
I mean,
so
maybe
he'll still be playing.
Even then, that. I mean, that's not the same as trying to play an 82-game schedule.
Right.
Look, like I said, I don't know the right answer. I'm not suggesting anyone do the right answer. I'm just saying this is going to be interesting. Because
I'm just saying, if he sits out 18 months, he could come in fresh, looking like a brand new player. He could put on 20 pounds and just look fantastic.
There goes that whole conversation. Russ versus rest. You know what I'm saying? And
right.
I don't know the right answer, and only time will tell. Me and Billy was talking about this in a chat that New Orleans is being petty. It might pay off for them. New Orleans says, "I'm not answering phones from L.A." Boston may say, "Hey, here's Kyrie, here's Jaylen Brown, here's Al Horford, here's a draft pick." Well, gosh, they're set up for the next decade if everything works out. Or it might bite them. They might end up losing him for absolutely nothing, and then New Orleans becomes the laughingstock.
Right. I said this on RTF Sports Talk. If the Celtics and Pelicans have some type of deal made for this off-season trade, I hope both of these teams stink for the next 5 or 6 years, just to kind of stick it to them both.
I mean, hey, but like I said, dude, there's a way too, and I don't know. There's a way this could work out for all parties involved.
Are you talking like a 3-way trade?
Well, no, not even that. Just bigger answer. So let's just say Boston said, because Boston can't trade for him unless Kyrie's dealt or they wait for the rest. They wait till next year. If they trade, let's say they trade Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, which is a guard, forward, and a big man, and they get the draft pick. So you have a guard, forward, big man. So essentially, your starting lineup is Kyrie Irving, whoever you draft at the 2, Jaylen Brown, Julius Randle, another Kentucky guy, and then Al Horford. You have a starting lineup. You're set. Boston has Anthony Davis. They already have studs, talents around him. Maybe next year they win the title, so they're 2020 champions. Then he has a ring. Now he goes to L.A. Or shoot, maybe he has the ring and says, "You know what? Boston's not bad either." I don't know. I mean, there's talks. What's Kyrie going to do? Everybody said, "Oh, he'll never stay in Toronto." Who knows now? I don't know.
Well,
I just think this is super interesting.
I think the only flaw in your idea here is that AD at one point said he wants to play with Kyrie, and if he does get traded to the Celtics, I think Kyrie has to stay there.
Well, but see, if he gets traded to LA, Kyrie's not going to be there. I mean, like I said,
Kyrie is a free agent at the end of this year, and he could go to.
All right, so we could go down the whole lane of that. We'll save that for another show, Mike, because there's 1,001 thoughts on that one. Let's keep it Kentucky. We're going through our favorite part where we reel through the remaining schedule. First off, do you have us beating Florida now?
I do have us beating Florida at Florida. But it is going to be a slugfest.
Okay,
we're just expect that 5 to 7 minute drought where we get slugged back and forth. How we answer after that is how the rest of the season goes.
Absolutely. So right now you're giving us a win.
Yes.
We got South Carolina at home.
That is going to be another very tough win.
Mississippi State on the road.
I'm going to have to pick Win for that one as well.
LSU at home.
Win.
Tennessee at home.
I still have that one as a loss.
Missouri on the road.
I'm going to have that one as a loss as well.
Auburn at home.
Win.
Arkansas at home.
Win.
Tennessee on the road.
That's a loss as well.
Ole Miss at home.
Ooh. That's going to be a win.
Florida at home.
Win.
So you got us going 3 more losses, which would have us 6 losses. That's not great. I think that still gets us around a 2 seed, maybe a very, very high 3 seed. I think that's enough. I think we'd have to win the title, the SEC title, to really stick a 2 seed or even have a shot at a 1 seed. I think by that point, especially if Tennessee beats us twice, they're pretty much going to win the SEC regular season.
Right.
So I'm not hating that idea. I actually see us just having 1 more loss. I see, like you said, tough win, Florida, South Carolina. I see wins at Mississippi State, LSU, Tennessee, Missouri, Auburn, Arkansas. I do see a loss, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a pretty hefty loss, 8 to 12 points at Tennessee is kind of an eye-opener. I hope that's enough. In my way, that's having my cake and eating it both. That's them losing a game to kind of keep your head right, but still with 4 losses, very likely you get a 1 seed,
right?
Especially if you win the SEC tournament. So, yeah, I'm pretty good on that one.
I do have this group of games circled, though, from the Tennessee game to the Florida game on Saturday. I have that circled. I feel like a loss is coming out of 1 out of these next 5 games, and I just hope it is not at home.
So let me ask you. Let me ask you this. Just kind of a last question before we head out. We talked about this earlier that by this point in the season, we all had 3 losses. We thought Auburn and Kansas was going to be a loss. It
Right.
wasn't, but we still had 2 other losses that we didn't really expect. Would you rather have, if at this point, at the end of the season, we've picked up 2 more losses, would you rather it be Tennessee at home and Tennessee on the road, or at Florida at Mississippi State, where nobody's hating us for losing at Florida at Mississippi State, but they're not ranked. But you beat number 1 Tennessee twice. Or would you rather say, hey, you won the games you were supposed to, but the games where the better team came in, you lost?
The only question I have is the losses versus Tennessee, are they close losses or are they blowouts?
Let me put it this. Neither. At Kentucky, we lose by 2. On the road, we lose by 12.
I would say I would rather lose on the road to Mississippi State and to Auburn. Or who'd you say it was?
Mississippi State and Florida.
Yeah, Florida. Yeah, I would rather lose on the road to those 2 teams simply because a road SEC loss is not as bad as a blowout home loss versus Tennessee or a blowout loss. Period.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll even take it a step farther. I would take 10-point losses at Florida and at Mississippi State before I would take 2-point losses to both Tennessee. And the reason I say that is you're going to hate it, you're going to growl, but you're going to get right together. When you show me that you can beat Tennessee at Tennessee, then I'm comfortable going into March. If you show me you can beat everybody you're supposed to, but when you play Tennessee, you lose, say you lose here, there, and in the SEC tournament, then I'm not confident going to the Final Four, because if you can't beat Tennessee, I don't know how well you can beat Duke, Gonzaga, Michigan.
Right.
So show me I can beat the one team, because the odds of us playing Florida or Mississippi State on the road in the NCAA, well, you can't play any road games in the NCAA tournament, so we're good. I just need to see that we can beat one of the top teams in the country.
And I would kind of chalk that up as a fluke, like getting beat by Florida and Mississippi State on the road as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just went in there. You're just too confident. You played sloppy and you lost. You hate it, but you know what happened. When you go to
and
Tennessee,
it's a road game. So
you go to at Tennessee, you get beat by 10. You might be like, well, darn, we played really good and still got beat. I'm nervous. So I would much rather have the senseless losses, because going into March, that's all that matters to me. But that is it. That is it for Big Blue Breakdown. Tell them where they can find us, Mike. After every game. Yep, tell them.
Yeah, after every game, Matthew Lau is Facebook Live on the Big Blue Breakdown page. So be sure to go ahead and like that page. Be sure to share that as well with a few friends. The more the merrier, as we say here in the biz. But if you guys like the podcast form, we're on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Breaker, Castbox. Pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, we are out there. Big Blue Breakdown. subscribe to it, give us a ranking, preferably 5 stars. Give Matthew Lau some love.
Always. We're out. Thanks for being
Wow.
on. Thanks for tuning in.
Go Cats.